Hi everyone, welcome back to Valley View Flower Farm. And I thought, because today is a bit windy and I don't really like working outside in the wind for some reason, I thought I would do a video on propagating some of the perennials that I have in my flower garden that I've found that I've used a lot this year in making bouquets. So I like to use perennials. I find that the unique flower that a perennial can give you and the robustness of the plant is a great asset in the cutting garden. So some different plants that I have today is I have a Shasta daisy, a double Shasta, and I'll put some pictures up of what these plants look like and the flowers. And I've just found with this double Shasta that the stem length is really good and the flower holds well for a long time in a bouquet. So all I do is go around, and today is a perfect day for it because it's overcast, and get tip cuttings, preferably without a bud, and I put them straight away in water. Some people put them in a snap lock bag, but I find it works better to put them straight in a little jar or a bucket of water. And I try and cut the cutting from the plant just below a leaf node. I've just got 3 here. I use a root gel instead of a powder. I find that adheres better to the cutting than the powder. And I also have a bamboo skewer that I like to use as a dibble stick to make the holes. I don't use anything fancy as far as soil's concerned. I just have these little trays that used to have pansies or something in them, and I use just a normal potting mix with like a good quality potting mix that has a bit of fertilizer in there, because the plants are in the mix for quite some time. So I'll get started. I always make the hole first, so when you put the little cutting in, it doesn't rub the gel off. Some people tip the powder or the gel out into a separate container. I don't bother. I just dip it in, coat, and firm the cutting in, and that's essentially all there is to it. You could go along and then take off some of these leaves, which I might do when I'm finished, just to reduce a bit of the stress on the plant. Next plant I'm going to propagate from cutting is Solido, and I'm glad my mother-in-law doesn't watch YouTube, because she'd be appalled at the fact that I'm using a pineapple or beetroot container Tupperware for my cuttings, because she used to sell Tupperware. So this is Solido, and this is a smaller or a miniature version of Solido. It's not the great big perennial, and you're going to hear dogs and buggies in the background because my husband is home today, so he's doing some farm jobs. But this has been fantastic. I only have 3 plants, and I've got that in the perennial garden of my cutting garden. So I want to add more. So I'm just going to try this as a cutting. And the real thing I love about cuttings is you just give it a go. If it doesn't work, you haven't really lost anything other than maybe a bit of time. So I've been cutting this Solido in its early form before it flowers, when it's that chartreuse green colour, and then just as the flower buds are beginning to form. I haven't been cutting it in flower, so I'm not sure what it's like in flower, like as if the pollen drops, because they're quite small flowers, so that's probably something I need to look at. But honestly, I can't get enough of it. It's a fantastic filler and a beautiful colour in bouquets. Some of these cuttings may wilt a little bit, but that's okay. And the success rate on cuttings is a bit hit and miss. I'll just move this out of the way. Another good plant, which is a perennial in my zone to take cuttings from, is feverfew. And try not to take sections where there's a flower forming, because it'll continue to try and flower. Even as a cutting. Good thing about cuttings as well is if there are characteristics of a plant that you really enjoy. So for example, this feverfew was really tall, it was nearly 5 foot tall. And you take a cutting of that plant, you will reproduce those characteristics because it's a genetic match to the parent. So this is Joe Pyeweed, but it's not the full height one. It's a miniature version. I'll put the name and description on the screen. This is another one I've been just growing in my garden, and it's about to flower, and I was taking cuttings, flowers off it last year, so it's another good one. And what you can do with bigger leaves, just cut them back a bit. So where I'm working in here is just a part of our old shed that we used to live in when we were building the house. So it's a bit of a dumping ground for bits and pieces, but it's a fairly quiet spot where I can make a mess, and I do all my bouquet arrangements in here. So taking cuttings is really quick and simple. That's why I like to do it. And it's a bit of a set and forget. You just put them in the greenhouse. So this is a Canary Island Foxglove, and I've tried growing it from seed without success. So this, I'm now taking some cuttings, and if this doesn't work, I'll take some root cuttings. And you'll notice that I haven't labelled anything. I'm not really worried what the plant is because they're all going in a big garden bed. That's my perennial garden in my cutting field. Like a bit of a landscape bed for cut flowers. So for me, it doesn't matter. And I can always look back on this video. So where I put them is a greenhouse. So it's just a space covered in shade cloth material, and I have micro sprinklers. I'll show you what it looks like, and they just come on automatically for so many minutes, so many times a day, and I use that for all my seed starting and for my cuttings, and it works really well. In winter, I have another structure my husband made out of like PVC, what's not PVC? Well, PVC panel, clear panel, and I put my stuff for winter in there because it's generally a little bit warmer. So this is a Russian sage, and I like it as a cut flower. It performs well in the vase, It does have an odour. The leaves have an odour. But I find if you strip, I just use it as a spike for the flower. Again, I'll put some photos up. But I like it because it adds a bit of impact to a bouquet. And it does very well from cuttings. I've only started with one plant and I now have about half a dozen in my landscape, all started from cutting. This one is also in my landscape. This is Helenium. I think it's called Dark Beauty or Black Beauty. But again, I'll put a picture up on the screen. It is currently flowering now. It has a similar flower to a Rebecca, but it's a beautiful red, rusty colour. I have grown this successfully from seed, but I thought I would try and see if I could get some autumn flowers by taking cuttings now. Okay, this one I've grown from seed, and this is the bejeweled loosestrife. So the purple loosestrife, not the white. I've heard bad things about the white, and I do have that in my garden, and I will see how that goes. If it becomes too much of a thug, I will take it out. But this one so far has stayed in its lane. It's first year flowering perennial. So I thought I'd see how it would go from a cutting. It's a bit hard to take cuttings from it now at the moment because it's full of flower buds. So I only took one. We'll see how that one goes. And lastly, I don't think this is going to work, but I thought I'll give it a try. This is Sanga Pinktner, and this has been such a hit in mixed bouquets, and actually I've sold it at farmers markets in straight bunches. I'll see if I can find some footage of that, and that I can't grow enough of it. So I've got Pinktner and Sanga, the red one, and the white one as well that I've grown from seed. But I've already got a plant of this in my garden established, and as a garden plant it is fantastic. The flowers are not impactful because they're only quite small little cotton bud type flowers, but it's the fact that they stand above the foliage and they sway in the wind. They're like, they add a bit of sparkle to the garden. Definitely love this one. So I thought, I know I could grow it from seed, but I thought I'll give cuttings a go. And it's currently coming into seed now, so I can always grab some seed, or I can just be more patient and wait until winter and I can divide it because it's probably big enough now to divide. So they're my cuttings. I will put them in the greenhouse and we can move on. I've got some seeds as well to plant, because now's the time to plant some of your seeds. Even though it's midsummer, seeds are ready to go. The plants will tell you when they're ready to be propagated. A perfect example of that are my billy buttons. The seed heads are just starting to form now. These ones, you'll know when they're ready. I can't break this easily. When I can break it open easily is when you're ready to plant the seed. So what I'm also going to be starting today is the belly buttons. So like I said, the flowers were going to seed, so I can grab a few of those and plant them. Generally, I just sprinkle them on top of the surface because they need light to germinate. And I know I'm overfilling, but that's okay because a lot of this will be chaff. I've also sprinkled some in the garden. And then I just press that in and make contact with the soil. I'll won't bore you with planting up a heap of trays of this, but I intend on planting about 4 trays of the billy buttons because I found last year when I planted them from seed, which I bought, the timing is important. So the difference between success and failure with Cresspedia is making sure you have planted the seed at the right time. So if it doesn't germinate, then I'll just have saved seed, which I'll try continuously, because these are a big hit for me. At farmers markets, people will buy straight bunches of Cresspedia, and the florists buy them in all the time. So that is always a good one. Another one that I'm going to try, and I don't have instructions on how to sow this one, so I might do half and half, is I think it's called, and I'll put a picture up on the screen and I'll put the name on the screen as well, but I think it's called the giant yellow coneflower. Now, if you've ever grown a cardoon or an artichoke, it's a similar flower to that. I don't know if you can see that, but it's like a cone at the bottom, and at the top will be a bright yellow tuft. The flower is amazing in bouquets. The plant itself gets about 1 metre to 1.5 metres high, so not as big as a cardoon, and they dry really well. I noticed when I was getting cuttings from my perennial garden that the seeds that was gone to seed. So I've collected a few heads, and I'll go back out there after this video and collect a few more and just keep them in a bag in case these don't germinate or I don't have as much success as I would like. But I think I could grow a whole bed of these and just sell them or dry them. They were amazing. So I'm just getting the seed out of the top of the cone, and they come out quite easily, and that's the seed there. It's like a thistle seed. And I will, like I said, I'll put some on the surface and I'll cover some. So I'm just going to put some on the surface. There's a few billy button seeds in there. That's okay. And then I'm just going to cover some with soil. And I will put my gloves on because my mum watches these videos and she insists I wear gloves when I deal with potting mix. So this is for you, Mum. And that's it. So I will let you know how that goes. I'll show you my greenhouse setup and what I've got propagating currently. So this is my Pope tap timer, and it's set every 6 hours for 3 minutes of sprinkler in the greenhouse. And this is the greenhouse. It's nothing fancy, but it does the trick. So I've just got my cuttings on the ground there, and then I just use it to start all my seeds. And I just have a ring of micro spray sprinklers, and subject to them not getting too clogged, they work really well. I do still check on them every now and again. So thanks for watching. I'll give you an update and let you know how the seeds and the cuttings go in about a month. Bye.